Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you for joining me on another good episode this week, covering all things grand final. I know it's a little late, and I know that we're out of lockdown, but look, I recorded a couple of times last week, wasn't happy with the result, so I've come back in bigger and better, and want to be able to break this down as best as I can. Going to go through all things the grand final, and we're going to be discussing all the news around the NRL world. So looking forward to getting into that. Now, Panthers are your 2021 winners. And they take out the comp this year, beating the Rabbitohs 14 points to 12. Now, this is probably one of the best grand finals we've seen in recent times. Every grand final that seems to be played is usually a lot closer. And this game wasn't a blowout, which was really good. We didn't get to see much of a blowout in this game. We got to see a very consistent, small score sort of game. We got to see a game where the refereeing was a lot better than it has been in recent rounds. So it was good to see that the refereeing was at a higher standard. We got to see the refereeing was at a better standard, and we got to see the refereeing just staying allowed the referees to get the game flow. The game was flowing really well. There were times when the game where you could have just been anyone's game, but the referees took control of the whole game. There wasn't much, pushing and shoving, not a lot of beef to go into it. It was just a very solid performance from both sides. And look, you got to take into account, firstly, the Panthers. I mean, with what they've had to go through in the final series and most of this season, Cleary injuring his shoulder at Origin, then coming in and then sitting out a couple of weeks. Once he started to get a bit more movement, jumping in and just doing his best to play, and play a big role for the side. But when you take a look into it and you think about it, guys, you got to look into and start to realise that Cleary dominated half the season with an 80% tear in his shoulder. Very similar heroics to Cooper Cronk in that grand final a few years back. What you got to look at as well is Cleary wasn't the only one that was injured. You had many players who got injured. So Tavita Pangai Jr. got injured, didn't participate in the game. He just knew that his knee was not cut up enough. He's out for 36 weeks. And so he thought it would be best to pass on to Spencer Leniu. So he was one casualty that actually didn't play, but the rest played. Nathan Cleary played with a bug shoulder. Dylan Edwards, for the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season, played with a broken foot. And not only did he play with a broken foot, we're not just talking about him playing any ordinary game, but he played the grand final in a broken foot. And when you talk about courage and you talk about determination and persistence, it's Dylan Edwards. And we're not talking a game either where he just played a normal, whatever kind of game. I mean, he was brilliant. He didn't make any errors, hardly missed any tackles, dominated field position where he could, ran the ball really well, threw some beautiful passes at times where he needed to, ran 236 meters, took like 20-odd runs. I mean, he played a very, very solid game. And when you just take into account just some of the things that he did, I mean, 24 runs, 230 meters, he even took some kicking pressure off the halves, made 2 tackle busts as well, made some runs out of dummy half, took some scoots out of dummy half as well. Just a very solid game, but this is all with a broken foot. So to play the game the last 4 or 5 weeks with a broken foot and to be playing it at such a high standard is something that you just got to kind of kick back and think, what the heck, that's just brilliant. James Fisher-Harris had a bung knee for the last few weeks. In the preliminary final against the Storm, he felt the ligaments moving in his knee. He played on with a bad knee and didn't just play. I mean, he played a very solid game to as best as he could. 13 runs, 117 meters, made 9 hit-ups, 11 of them to play the balls. I mean, 22 tackles. Just enough. He played enough just to help his side get over the line. Just in that, especially in that first little period. Only played 36 minutes, but still played a decent enough amount of game time with his knees not 100%. Moses Leota also played with a bit of a calf issue. 31 minutes, 8 runs, 73 meters. While their stats aren't usually good in normal games, we've got to talk about grand final. We're talking about the persistence that these players played with, and the endurance they played with, and just with their injuries not being, their bodies having not being 100%, it's nuts. Kurt Capewell, damaged finger, played very, very solid game as well, played 80 minutes. Brian To'o wasn't 100% with his ankle either. He just continued to dominate as he's done all year. 29 runs, 238 meters, 81 post-contact, made a line break, 6 tackle breaks, and made an offload and made a couple of tackles on his end as well. I mean, these are some courageous performances from these boys that are injured. Scott Sorensen, who was ruled out for 13 weeks with a wrist injury, came back after 3. His wrist is still 100%. But these boys pulled in together. They just rallied on. In a normal setting, all these players would sit out. just a normal, regular NRL game. But because it's grand final and how much it means to them and their bond, they played out a cracking game. And just an unbelievable performance. I mean, Penrith dominated field position. Nathan Cleary's kicking game was just one of the best I've ever seen in a grand final. He just, every time he got the ball and he put it out to the boot, he was so accurate. With everything he did, it looked like he was playing 100%. His shoulders at 80% torn off the bone. But it looked like he was playing at 100%. You know, he made tackles. He wasn't afraid to get dirty if he needed to. He wasn't afraid to make those big plays if he had to, with the boot, without the boot. Instrumental performance from him. The Rabbitohs, I mean, very solid. Unfortunately, they just spent a lot of their time trying to get out of their field as Panthers just continued to dominate field position. Cleary kept putting in some beautiful kicks, and the defense was just aiming up. The same defense we saw against Melbourne was on display against the Rabbitohs. Kept them in their own line, kept them in their territory, kept them in their half, kept them in their 30, sometimes 40, 20-meter line, sorry. Just an unbelievable defense. And like I said, 6 of the 17 players are playing with, you know, all these crazy injuries. But Cleary, perfect on the boot. Anytime he came into the defense, he missed about 8 or 9 tackles. You know, he didn't have a great game defensively, considering his shoulders a little bit bummed, but Capewell covered him. Capewell was there to defend him his whole time. You know, brilliant games. Momorowski, it wasn't too bad. Matt Burton, the loss he is to this side is huge. When you consider a player like Matt Burton, his versatility, can play in the centres, can play in the halves, can play a lock, he's just so good. Brian To'o, the modern-day Matt Utai, Jerome Luai, keeping that combination with the left-hand side of the field. Just brilliant stuff. I mean, Coruscant playing 80 minutes, he was fantastic as well. Kikau played good, solid stint off the 62 minutes, come off the bench for that one. Was fantastic. But Isaiah Yeo, mate, what a player. What a player, and he's just been pinnacle for this side. Has that ball-playing ability, runs the right holes, even makes a couple of line breaks here and there. He's just so dangerous when he touches that ball. You just think you look at him, you think he's just a bit of a lanky lock, you can just get a job done, but he does it so well. 19 runs, 168 metres, 62 post-contact. Mate, we're talking some big numbers he put up. 36 tackles to go with it. I mean, just a phenomenal performance. Scott Sorensen, 30 minutes off the bench. Liam Martin, 54 minutes as well. Just pitching in some big numbers. Just doing their part and being there defensively. I mean, if we look at the defense tally for the Panthers, I mean, we look at some of the tackles that were made. I mean, it's big numbers. Coruscant made 51 tackles. Capewell made 40 tackles. Kikau, 32. Isaiah Yeo, 36. Scott Sorensen, 23 off the bench. Liam Martin, 27 in his first little cameo, then come off the bench and completed more tackles. I mean, monstrous effort. Monstrous effort. We'll go to the Bunnies. And they didn't play terrible either. They didn't get smashed, but they just couldn't dominate field position. The kicking game for the Panthers was too good. Their defense was just unmatched. Blake Taffy, thought he played very solid at fullback. Didn't think he was bad. I thought coming into a position where he's usually a half, having to fill in at fullback is a big ask. And I said from the beginning, Rabbitohs lose this game, the blame is on Latrell. Because I can guarantee you, if Latrell plays this game, they win. They win this game. But Panthers, they did the right thing in everything they did. Johnston scored another 4-pointer. A little quiet, but when it mattered, he delivered. Gagai, very solid. Came off HIA a little bit in that first half, jumped back on, played his heart out. He's had a very solid year, Dan Gagai, as well, which has been really good to see, and the Knights will be excited when he gets over there. Campbell Graham, just solid. Jackson Paulo, I thought, was very good. I thought in the last month or so, he's really matured, Jackson Paulo. He's been playing a lot better football, and football that he was playing at the beginning of the year was just trash. He's picked it up for the finals. He's stepped it up. Cody Walker, instrumental again. Very, very good performance from him. Yes, he threw that cutout ball that led to a Stephen Crichton try, which was a very, very, very unlucky moment. It happens. You throw an intercept. You think maybe you should throw a shorter. Should have thrown the short ball. Crichton read that play so perfectly, which is what they did at training. Read that play so perfectly and delivered when it mattered. But nonetheless, Cody Walker's individual try was amazing. Got straight past Cleary, stepped a couple others, Data through Edwards, and then it was open field from there. Played very, very good. Adam Reynolds, mate, he led that side as best as he could. Another unlucky moment of him missing a touch. He usually gets those kicks, but it happens. In the grand final, the pressure's there. It was hard to see that. It was so hard to see Reynolds miss that kick. He had done everything right up until that point. Mark Nichols, in a 35-minute little stint, played solid. Just his presence around that side, the experience he brings to that side, outstanding. Cook, he was pretty good. I mean, his running game is his biggest asset, and he never delivered on it most of the year. In a game where I thought he'd deliver the most on it, he just didn't. Like, he took a lot more runs than he would have in a normal game, but just not the spark that we thought he could really be in that game. Tavita Totola, not bad. He played solid. He was there. He was good. Kalama Tangi, Jaden Sewer, great. But Ken Murray, mate, it's just something about these locks. They're just brilliant. In the 75 minutes that Cameron Murray played, 10 runs, 97 metres, made a line break, looked dangerous, and he finished off the game 53 tackles, game high. I mean, they're putting some big efforts in defence. Cook, 45 tackles. Totola, 36 tackles. Murray, 53. Thomas Burgess off the bench, 23 tackles. Him coming off the bench, 16 runs, 139 metres, Tom Burgess. I mean, those were very good performances. But to lose Dan Gagai in that first half and then lose Jai Arrow for the game did not help the Rabbitohs' case, but they marched up. They kept playing. They kept busting their chops. They tried to do everything right, and it was just unlucky at the end of the day. One pass and one kick was all that really led to it. But it was a grand final like no other. It was such a good grand final when you consider the injuries, when you consider, Wayne Bennett's last game as coaching as the Rabbitohs, Adam Reynolds' last game in the Rabbitohs jump off before he goes to the Broncos, Benji Marshall, when we find out it's his last ever game. I mean, so much was on the line. Panthers playing wounded. I mean, it will go down as one of the best grand finals, and you can mark my words on that 150%. News around the NRL world. Now, we're keeping you guys up to date with everything latest. Just so you're aware, from here on in, every bit of news is going straight to my Facebook and Instagram. These next few months, we're doing season reviews for every club, so I won't be covering any news in that. So to check out all the news, all the signings, all the rumours, head to our Facebook page and our Instagram page where you'll find it all there. Last news around the NRL world for the year. David Mission has signed on as head of performance at the Roosters. The Tigers have sacked Shane Millard, and they have gone and interviewed Shane Flanagan and Nathan Payless for the assistant coaching role. I would be looking at Flanagan to go in. I think he knows how to attract players, and even though he's an assistant coach, there's a good chance if Maguire doesn't perform, he can just go straight into that top job and he can start attracting quality to that side, and then hopefully start seeing them a bit more consistent in the top 8. Callis has been around. He was assistant coach at Parramatta, assistant coach at Warriors, assistant coach just recently at the Roosters, but he's now moving on to another club, so he's potentially looking at the Tigers as well. So he can bring a lot of experience there as well. The Dragons are closing in on the signing of Aaron Woods on a 1-year deal, about $200,000, which will bring a decent size of experience to their pack. Aaron Woods knows exactly what he needs to do, and he knows exactly how he can play and be an influence to the younger forwards coming through. Bulldogs confirmed the signing of Braden Burns on a 2-year deal. Now, I want to get into the fines and the punishments for those players that went and did coke and got caught out. Reece Walsh copped a $5,000 fine from the NRL, a 2-game suspension. He's currently doing drug and alcohol counselling as well as education and training as part of his punishment. Cam Munster. Now, these punishments were read out by the NRL. It's what the NRL handed out before what Storm did to these players and the punishments they handed out to them. Cam Munster, $30,000 fine, 1-game suspension, must do education and training as part of punishment. Brendan Smith, $15,000 fine, 1-game suspension, must do education and training as part of the punishment. Chris Lewis, $5,000 fine, 1-game suspension, must do education and training as part of punishment. To only get 1-game suspension from the NRL for doing cocaine, and then you go and ban Israel Folau because he quoted scripture, continues to make no sense to me. It continues to blow my mind at just how inconsistent these punishments are and how they sit around and they come to the right conclusion that these are the right amounts to fine them and suspend them for. I still don't know that still can't believe that you can do drugs and then get away with it and then just play on. Cop a 1-game suspension, $5,000 fine, or $15,000 or $30,000 fine. I mean, It's ridiculous. It's dumb. While the NRL handed out those punishments to those players, they added more punishments on top of that. Cameron Munster. The Storm fined him $100,000, which is suspended. Additional behavioural conditions as part of disciplinary action agreement, because it's not the first time Cam Munster has been done for off-field dramas. He's had many issues off-field. As much as we don't want to admit it, as much as we love him and what he brings to the game, he's better than this. 27 years old. I mean, he's about to hit the peak of his career. I just don't like what we've seen in the last few months of Munster. His form's dropped a lot, but stood down from senior leadership group, went to and completed a 4-week rehab program effective immediately, can't touch alcohol for 12 months, and consultation with the club medical team and health professionals to individualise a comprehensive ongoing welfare program. To one of your star players who's represented a country, represented a club, it's very poor from him to be in the limelight because of the reputation he holds. But he's done it to himself. And he deserves every bit of that punishment. He should have got sacked. If I'm being 100% real, he should have been sacked because of how many off-field dramas he's had. But Storm is sticking by him. Whether he decides to get released and then go to the new team out in Redcliffe will be something we'll have to wait for. But Storm is sticking by him, and it's a massive call from them. Brendan Smith, $50,000 fine suspended. Additional behavioural conditions as part of disciplinary action agreement. Also stood down from the leadership group. And also will need to consult with club medical team and health professionals to individualise a comprehensive ongoing welfare program as well. Chris Lewis, $10,000 fine which is suspended. Again, additional behaviour conditions as part of disciplinary action agreement. He will assist with the development of a new education program for our young NRL talent and elite pathway programs. So he's going to play a big part in trying to get things cleaned up off field. And again, consultation with club medical team and health professionals to individualise a comprehensive ongoing welfare program. Now, a lot of people have been asking me about the fines. Why Munster got $100,000? Why Smith got $50,000? Why Lewis got $10,000? It's based on their salaries. Not all of them earn the big bucks. Munster's on a very handy, nice, big contract, $800,000-$900,000. I mean, Brendan Smith is on something a lot lower than that, but he's been, if he stays with Storm, will be upgraded to about $600,000 a year. And Chris Lewis is nowhere near any of those salaries. So that's why the prices are different. But I mean, the punishments aren't harsh enough. I can't believe they're not even banished from the game. But you banish someone from quoting scripture in Israel Folau, it will forever never make sense to me. The Seagulls farewell Curtis Sirinen, Jack Kuchevsky, Moses Sully, and Tavita Fuyuna, as well as Zach Sadler. So Curtis Sirinen will head to St. Helens. Jack Kuchevsky, who was linked with the Sharks, will be linking up with the Dragons on a 12-month deal. Moses Sully also heading to the Dragons. Tavita Fuyuna signed a 1-year deal with the New South Wales Waratahs and Rugby Union. And Zach Sadler has been released from his contract. Now, Dane Laurie, former Penrith player, was seen wearing his Penrith jersey and celebrating with the fans when Penrith won. Tigers got a whiff of it, not happy. I can see both sides. Dane Laurie spent his whole life and his whole career at the Panthers prior to going to Tigers this year. I don't see it as a huge deal that they're making it out. I'm very happy Tigers didn't go out and punish him for it, which I think would have been absurd. He was just celebrating all his teammates winning a comp in the area he's grown up in, finding the trophy coming back to Western Sydney. It's a big deal. Don't see much in it. Not much to talk about this. Seagulls re-signed George Trefoil and Morgan Boyle to the end of 2022 and confirmed the signing of Ethan Bullemott to the end of 2023. As I said, the Dragons signed Moses Sully. They signed him for 3 years. The Tigers have changed their logo, which is absolute trash. It just taking limelight of just how pathetic their board is and how everything off-field is so bad, which is leading to everything crap on-field. And on the Tigers, they have also signed Tyrone Peachy on a 2-year deal to the end of 2023. And they've also confirmed the signing of Tim Sheens on a 3-year deal as the Director of Football on about a $350,000 salary per year. So looking at some changes that the Tigers are looking to make. But, yeah, changing the logo isn't really going to do much for them. Now, Kane Evans has been released to the Super League. Was very, very poor this year. Was suspended a lot of the games. Just very childish things that he did. Good riddance. Off you go. Enjoy your time in the Super League. All the best there. The Panthers broke the trophy. So they've celebrated pretty hard, the Panthers, as you would, make it to the big dance and winning it. But they've damaged the trophy, and it's a $30,000 cost to repair. Now, Panthers will be covering it, but there's been a lot of questionable things that have been done in regards to the Panthers and the way they've celebrated. They haven't done anything illegal, but they've just been carrying on. And to a lot of the legends, they aren't really a big fan of it. I don't see much in the big deal of carrying on. In terms of disrespecting the trophy, I had a few people reach out to me about this. I can see the impact of the players that are on that trophy, and they're there for a reason. It should be respected a little bit more. I wouldn't think suspending them and finding them is really the way to go. I think they just need to be really educated on who those two men really are on that trophy. So that's where my input comes in on that. The Knights of Fairworld, Gehamat Shibasaki to Japanese Rugby, Connor Watson to the Roosters, Josh King to the Storm, and Blake Green retired. Now, this is something that just really, really made me laugh. Brad Arthur at the Parramatta Eels has been extended to the end of 2024. Absolute delight to see that for me, because it goes to show that Parra won't win a comp under his tutelage, and the fact that he's kept there for another couple more years is just laughable. Purely laughable. Like I said, he just knows how to manipulate the media, he knows how to manipulate the board, and he knows how to get him exactly where he wants them, and got him another couple more years. Oh, mate, don't know how good it is to be a Parra fan right now. All the Parra fans I've spoken to are absolutely not happy about it, but, mate, brings a smile to my dial, I can tell you that. The Broncos are looking to offer a training trial deal to Nene McDonald, who cut his tenure at the Sharks short to head back home to Queensland. The Raiders have confirmed the signing of Jamal Fogarty on a 3-year deal, so he'll be their number 7 when he goes to Canberra. Titans chipping in for most of that contract up until the 3rd year. The GOAT, Mark Nichols, has extended his time to 2023 at the Rabbitohs. Tamari Martin is looking to continue his rugby league career. He had bleeding in the brain, which he retired from at the Cowboys a couple of years back. Got through a whole year of rugby union, started to play pretty well, didn't have any underlying symptoms. And he's now going to go through the channels of the Wyndham Seagulls and attempting to get a contract at the Broncos. So we should see how that goes. Dragons, like I mentioned earlier, Jackie Chivsky and also signed Tau Maga for 12 months as well. Cowboys re-signed Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow on a 1-year extension on his contract to the end of 2023. The Dolphins have become the 17th team to enter the NRL. Now, they were known to be usually Redcliffe Dolphins, but they've decided to get rid of the name Redcliffe and just leave them as the Dolphins to represent a greater part of Brisbane. Not a fan. I don't like it. It should be Redcliffe Dolphins. You know, if you can't be proud of where you've come from, then you've come from nowhere. So I think it's very important that they've gone with that direction, the NRL and the Dolphins in this case. It looks like Wayne Bennett will be signing a 3-year deal, $1.2 million a season, I believe, or something a little bit higher, and with the option in the club's year or his year for a 4th year. So huge news today, introducing the Dolphins to become the 17th team in 2023. Ash Taylor has signed a trainer trial contract with the Warriors, finally confirmed on a 1-year deal. Shane Millard, who, as I said, was sacked from the Tigers, has signed on with the Bulldogs as head of the pathways in their junior development. And in news abroad, St. Helens are your grand final winners in the Super League, defeating the Catalan Dragons 14 points to 12. It was good to see players like Lachlan Coote win a 3rd grand final in a row. Kevin Ogama's won 3 in a row as well. Shane Mataudia also got a dub there in his 1st year at the club. Sad to see, though, on the other hand, on the Catalan side, James Maloney, his final professional game in the Super League, but again took another grand final. He's just a freak of nature. Sim Cassiano missed out on a comp there as well. Quite the game that was as well. So it's good to see, you know, for the St. Helens guys, they've won 3 in a row now. It's good to see them winning the comp again. And Kevin Ogama, who got the equivalent to the Dally M medal here, the equivalent to the Clive Churchill in the grand final, scored 2 tries, very good performance. He's now considered there a legend. He's been in 3 grand finals there, and he's won all 3. So he's quite had a successful career over in Super League. He's coming back to Australia to speak to some clubs, see if there are any offers on the table. If it's not looking likely, then it looks like he's just going to have to retire. But he's been very satisfied with the career that he's had. So congratulations to St. Helens on that victory over there. Guys, thanks for joining me on another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Appreciate you joining me again. Now, like I said, we're not stopping. We're going to be bringing out season reviews going from 16th to 1st. I'm going to be as very detailed as possible. If you have any suggestions of what you want me to add in on each season for each club in the season review, please let me know. Send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, even check us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us, like our page on Facebook. Share our posts. If you like what you're seeing, let us know. If you want things you've changed up, send a message through. If you want to communicate to me via email, leaguechatwithstat@gmail.com as well. But guys, thank you so much for joining me once again. You have yourselves a great week, and you'll hear from me shortly in regards to the season reviews that'll go through to the end of this year, beginning of next year, and even go through to the start of the new season. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Have yourselves a good week. We'll be back here soon and catch our season reviews week in, week out. See you guys. Take it easy.